Okay, with the waiting screenwriter, Susurrus is the script. Krista, is it Omegon?
Amigone.
Amagon. Did I
Yeah.
say Omegon? I wanted to say that so badly. Amagon. And Susurrus, that's like I was looking at the definition. That's like a low whisper, I guess, right?
An indistinguishable whisper.
And hence why is that the title of your script?
Well, because it's supposed to be, it ends up being the subconscious of this woman that taunts her. So, our subconscious, something that we can't necessarily understand, but we're always hearing, even though we don't
Gotcha.
realize it.
Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's low, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's always present, at least for this character, right?
Absolutely.
And you described the script in two words. You described it as creepy and sexy.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's those things.
So tell me about it's a really interesting script. So give someone if someone like creepy, sexy, susurrus, like what's the pitch? How would you pitch the script?
Sure. So, a doll maker who was abandoned by her husband the year before has finally decided to jump into the dating scene. But when she discovers how dangerous the world has become, she decides to go with the evil she knows. And yeah, it's about choosing to change, even though
Yeah,
it's scary, or choosing not to change because it's scary, to your detriment. Like being in your being detrimental to yourself because you're so afraid of what you don't know.
gotcha. And there's some twists and turns, I guess, along the way too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
See, because you don't want to say too much. You want to pitch it, but you don't want to say too much, I guess, right?
yeah, yeah. There's a couple twists, and it's more about just a person. It's my way of exploring how a person can internalize uh, abuse
Mhm.
so that even when her abuser is gone, she continues to abuse herself. Uh, so yeah, that's really what it's about, the knit and grit of it.
Well, I think a lot of people can relate to what you just described, right? Because it's like
Yeah,
just because the abuser goes away, it doesn't mean that it's all over, right? So,
yeah. I mean, in this script, it's a woman who is dealing with the past abuses of her husband,
yeah.
but that can be true for any person of any gender, sexuality, religion, whether, it could be abuse that you um, experienced through a teacher that was maybe mean to you, like your math teacher in the fifth grade, or it could be someone you work with. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. And the abuse that my script dissects is emotional abuse. So it's an abuse that doesn't leave a bruise or a scar.
Mhm.
It's not something you can point to and say, look at, like have quote unquote proof of abuse, right? Um, and that happens to a lot of people, unfortunately. And so that's kind of what I wanted to explore.
So this is like it's just interesting like some themes and tones, but you have to like keep the audience interested in like the plots and like the ideas because it seems like a pretty like what you're describing is like very like I said very universal. People can really understand where you're coming from. But there's really lots of like subtext, like even her being a doll maker, there's a symbolism to that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like she creates these dolls and um, without giving too much away, it's the idea of, well, yeah, I could try to make a new life for myself, or I could fake a life, you know, and she chooses, unfortunately, something that I wouldn't choose, but it's she's more comfortable in a world of her own than stepping out.
Which
Yeah.
is very common, right? So
Yeah, and I think it's becoming more common. We have these lives and this, unfortunately during the pandemic, we all had to live this way, but we technology has grown to a point where technically you don't have to leave your house.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people choose not to.
Well, because a lot of people's jobs, they don't like, including mine, right? You don't really, you don't have to go home, right? So you don't have to like leave the house.
Yeah. And there's definite benefits to that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, but like the idea of like you can get your groceries delivered to you. You can, if you're having a health issue, you can do like a telemedicine kind of thing. You can do social groups. Like technically, you don't need to leave your house. And so that's what she chooses ultimately to do. Um, but I don't know, it was still something that I didn't go into writing the script with the message at the forefront. I I had an idea for um and this actually might be I don't remember the actual names of these people, but I remember reading an article about, and this is something that actually happened. It happened in Florida in like the 1950s, where this doctor, he was from Germany, he immigrated to America. And when he was a kid in Germany, he had a premonition that he was going to meet a woman with long dark hair and she would be the love of his life. And he was like 9 years old when he had this premonition. Life happens, he moves to America and he meets a young woman like 20 years his junior, and she's already married to someone else, and she's a patient of his and he becomes obsessed with her. And she has, I forgot what it was, but it was something incurable. It was, I don't know if it was like cystic fibrosis or it was something where it just got increasingly worse until she did pass away. And he was so obsessed with her that he got her body from her, she was in like a family mausoleum,
Yeah.
and he got her body. And they only discovered, like there was, probably a year after he did this, there was some like welfare check. I don't know if his house smell, I don't know. I can't remember the details, but
Yeah.
authorities came and they found this woman. And as her body started to decompose, he would paper mache her her body. And there's photos of it, and it is so disturbing. And I just kind of became intrigued the idea of like someone who like is in love with the doll, which is not a new idea. Like, what is there? There's Lars and the Real Girl
Yeah.
is a movie that explores that. But, but then as I was writing it, I realized I was writing a story about a woman who is mentally abused. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the message came second. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Because okay, so yeah, so you're kind of like jumping in some the twists and the turns in the script, but that's kind of that is a creepy story with the doctor, right? Because he has a little bit of, obviously he's got power over her because he's her doctor, and then it's almost like it doesn't it's like unrealistic, like he like steals her body, right? So
yeah.
yeah.
It's just like it's a story that, and it's one of those stories that like will pop up on like weird but true stories, or like if
Yeah.
you're, BuzzFeed's like 10 weirdest stories off the internet, it like pops up like ever so often, and every time it just like makes my stomach turn. It
Yeah.
just
But
so
the way, even though you said that he's like he was in the 50s and he immigrated from Germany, that's like interesting in itself too, right? Yeah.
yeah, and he was like, I think he immigrated from Germany because like his medical practice was suspect, like he needed to start a new life. And
Like a lot
there
of
this
people, yeah.
yeah, and the
Yeah, yeah.
story gets even, there's more details that like I moved over where like he had essentially brainwashed her family into like she needs to live with me because she's so very sick, and the girl herself was like, please don't let him be near me. Like she was like the voice of reason, but her parents, I think English was their second language, and they were just so scared for their daughter because of her health. They were just like at the mercy of this man.
Yeah.
I think he paid for her medical bills. Like it was, and oh, it's so disturbing to me.
Yeah.
Um,
And but that jump started your script, I guess. That was the idea for your
yeah.
script.
Because the images of her paper mache, her body that's covered in places with paper mache
Mhm.
is unnerving. It
Yeah.
really is. I'm sure you could Google find something about it.
Well, I don't know if you're reading this, but what's happening now is that, which is jumping on your themes, is that people are falling in love with their AI, like their
Yes.
yeah.
So scary. I think it's so scary. And like, I mean, her was about that, right? But like,
Yeah, that was like a little bit ahead of its time. That's a great movie. It's way ahead of its time, but this is what's happening, right? So
yeah. But I mean, even do you remember the movie Cherry 3000 or Cherry 2000? It was
no.
Melanie Griffith. It's from the 80s. And it's like post-apocalyptic America. And it almost has like a Tank Girl vibe, but it like came out before Tank Girl. And she is commissioned by this man. He wants to get the latest version of this AI robot human named
Okay.
Cherry 3000 or Cherry 2000. But America has become so treacherous that he can't go across country. They have to go by car. Like he can't fly.
Yeah.
And it's so treacherous. He needs like a mercenary with him. And so Melanie Griffith is this mercenary. And over the course of their journey, like they kind of like they start having feelings for each other, but then eventually they get to the factory and he gets this AI woman, and then he has to choose between the real woman or the doll.
Mhm.
And but remember watching it when I was like a kid, and I definitely watched it before I was probably supposed to.
Yeah.
Um, I watched a lot of movies like on HBO and like the movie channel, probably when I was too young to watch them. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean, it's not a new idea. I didn't reinvent the wheel, but I did want to explore it through my vision, my
No,
ideas.
but it's because everybody comes from a different tone. Like you brought up like Lars and the Real Girl, where like he's obviously he has some childhood trauma.
Hmm.
Then her, like he's lonely and like it's just like a simple feeling that he's just like lonely and he's disconnected with like everybody has their reasoning, right? And there's different tones of comedy. Yours is kind of in the thriller kind of like horror twist, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But there's common themes because it's like you said, it's easier to instead of human interaction, it's just like it's that because that could lead to conflict.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just it's easy now because it's like we avoid people. Humans have been trained through evolution to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
So humans, if you don't have to deal with humans, then basically you can make one up and then everything's good, right? So
Yeah. I mean, people don't even like to call each other on the phone anymore. It's like,
no,
well, I'll text them,
yeah.
you know?
Well, that's the thing, right? Nobody calls anymore, right? Even if if you get a phone call, you're like, why is that person calling me? Like, just text me, right?
Yeah, it's like, is there an emergency? Did something bad happen? Like,
Yeah, only
it's,
the older only people over 50 will phone, right?
yeah,
So
I
yeah,
mean, like, I'm almost there. So for me, I'm looking at this
yeah,
and I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah.
and
It's
I get it. Like, sometimes a text is perfect, but uh, yeah, I'm definitely, because I'm Gen X and like,
yeah.
I look at the younger generation and it's so admirable that they are able to like use this technology as an extension of themselves. But to me, it's still a little bit like, uh, outside. Like technology kind of intimidates me in that way.
Well, dating is that you don't before you would like meet somebody at a coffee shop or whatever like that. You can't do that now, right? So you
Yeah.
can, yeah, you have to find somebody online, right? So
I mean, I met my husband old school, and I'm really grateful that I did because
yeah,
like it's a really scary, I think it's a really intimidating world. And like you do have to trust. It's all about trust in the script. Like Jilly, the protagonist, she has to trust just real people, but that same issue with trust issues, people could have that with online dating or, anything. You don't really know who you're talking to sometimes if it's avatars and
Yeah.
chat rooms. You don't know.
Yeah. And everybody's so leery of that. I'm noticing the last few months I'm getting like emails from like, oh, was that AI? Was that like it's like and it's like that's just like that's the common like reaction. It's like if you don't like something, oh, that was just an AI kind of thing, right? So
Yeah. It's like not like it's wonderful that technology is so advanced because it will help us in many ways, but it's also, you know, eventually I mean, we're not going to have control of it. Like it's already like smarter than us.
yeah.
It's so weird.
Well, maybe emotionally not, right? So hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got obviously this is a very interesting script. It says on the blog interview that you've been working on this for on and off for about 8 years.
Yeah, I think but like the way that I write is and that was a guesstimate. Like I start an idea and then, life happens and then I'm working on a different thing and I have to get that thing finished. So, the other script goes on the back burner and this has been through a lot of incarnations because I'm not a outline writer.
Okay.
Um, it would be more efficient if I was, but and I've tried to become an outline writer, but it never, not only does it not feel organic, but it doesn't read organic either. I don't think my strongest work comes from when I'm following an outline. So yeah, I definitely, because I have an actor background, I figure things out through the scenes. And because of that, it just sometimes takes me longer. Um, but I mean, the more I write, the faster I get. Um,
The
that's
more
for
I
sure.
write, the faster I get.
Yeah, the more I write, the faster I get at it.
It's like you're like you have. It seems like you're spontaneous. You have like you have an idea and you just kind of like put pen like or put pen to paper or put keyboard to final draft and just go, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I have I can have a lot of anxiety about sitting down at a computer and writing, but the best way to get over my anxiety is just to do it. So I actually do a lot of writing internally before I ever sit down. Like I'll have an idea and I'll go for walks with, my dog and um I'll be thinking about it, the idea for like a couple weeks and I'll be filing moments that I see, visual moments that I see or bits of dialogue I hear. I'm just filing it away, filing it away. And now it's coming to a point where when I do finally sit down, I can get a first draft done in like 2, 3 weeks. Um, and then from there, though, I like the Susurrus just took a long time because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
Because I had a short of the Susurrus done before the pandemic, and I was hoping to produce it through We Make Movies, which is a group I'm associated with. But then the pandemic happened and everything was just like put on hold. So part of the reason why the Susurrus took so long was because I was like, oh, I can't make this short, so I'm going to make it a feature.
gotcha.
You know what I mean?
So, there is a short script though. There is like there is a version of the short script.
Yeah, like a 23-minute version.
That's
And it
cool.
does have like a different, like the storyline is slightly different, but it is essentially, it ends the same. It ends the same.
And
So
what's We Make Movies? That's just like an organization that makes
yeah,
movies.
they're really fantastic. I recommend it for everybody. They started in LA and now they have a division in New York and London. They might have one in Vancouver and they might have one in Toronto actually, but it's just a way to organize actors and writers, and they typically meet once a week. And it's people who just really want to make movies, but maybe they didn't go to film school, or maybe they did, but they're looking to network.
Yeah,
And people just make stuff.
yeah,
Um, it's like community filmmaking, but it really helps you get in the weeds and learn about yourself as a writer or as an actor or as production, whatever it is that you're looking to better yourself as.
yeah. And but you're not. There's no plans to make this into make the short script anymore, or
Uh, Not really. It always comes down to a matter of money, you know.
yeah,
Um, I don't, as of yet, have any representation. Um, the work that I've gotten, and I'm very fortunate that I've gotten any work at all, has always just been through recommendations or people seeing my work from other things.
yeah,
Um, but I don't, and I'm gonna own up to my green here, my naivete, but like when it comes to the whole money side of things,
yeah,
I don't know anything. Like, and I don't want to. Like, I would prefer someone else being the expert at that.
yeah. Well, I can see this film. Like I don't know the short version, but it really just needs one great location
Hmm.
and a really great production designer, and of course a good director and a good star. But basically, but you know what I mean? Like I can like it could be a really cool film, like visually.
Thanks. Yeah, it's because I'm always assuming that if I'm gonna write something, the only way it'll be made is if I make it.
Yeah,
I really try to restrict myself, like, all right, let's make this in one location, or let's make this in, no more than five locations, and how little can we make the cast? I really, but I find a lot of freedom in those restrictions.
yeah,
And I would recommend that to any other writer who's like, because it's really hard to write something when it feels like the whole world is yours. But it's like, or at least for me it is, but it's having boundaries, I think is very liberating for a writer. It kind of frees up your creativity to just to free it up through focus.
freed up. Okay. So you like so when like you've been right. So it says in the blog interview that you got two no, novels that you wrote, three pilots. So you're proficient. You've written a lot of
Oh yeah.
short films, short stories. Like you write. You're
Yeah.
constantly writing.
Yeah. No, I want to be ready if I'm ever lucky enough to uh, you know, um, get the meeting or anything like that. Like I want to be ready. And then also, I just enjoy writing. Like it brings me a lot of joy. And so if I have between being a mom and having, a job and all that other stuff and life stuff, when I have my free moments, I'm getting, as Nora Ephron said, getting my ass in the chair. So,
Yeah. And what do you think that what do you remember when you like you've been writing your whole life? Is there was like a time where you just said, I'm going to start writing a lot?
um, it's one of those weird, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm some like uh I'm sharing this anecdote very humbly, but I always used to write when I was like in high school and in grade school. I was always a writer, but
Yeah.
I was a professional dancer and an actor for a very long time. And what had happened was, I know it's going to sound really weird, but my husband and I were driving across New York State, and um, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I had this like, it was like the thought dropped into my head, and I was like, I know how to write a novel. And I was like, I had this idea for a book, and I just started writing it. And I had never written a book before, but it was on that road trip. Like had a notebook in my bag, and I just started writing. And then when it came to writing scripts, I was in a theater company in New York City, and the cheapest way to put up a play is if you write it yourself because you don't have
Yeah.
to pay for, you know. And so me and my friends, we would write pieces for each other. So it just like kind of started organically and out of need. Like we need a play, we'll write a play. So
Yeah. And how did that go?
it was an amazing time. It was a great time. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I loved it.
And do you remember were you like what stage in your marriage or your life you were when you had that idea for the I
I
can
was
write a
like
novel?
late
Okay.
20s. So it came later for me, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, it's never too late.
Well, did you have kids yet or
Not yet, not
okay.
yet, not yet. But and like that's another that's another reason why um like motherhood is it does take up a lot of your time as it should, you know.
Yeah. If
So
you're good
it's
at it,
really
right? So
what?
if you're good at it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. If you
Yeah.
want to be good at it, and
Yeah.
I hope you do,
Yeah.
um, you that's why it's really important to, if you are a mom and you're a writer, you have to carve out time for yourself to write because you will show up better as a mother if you take a little bit of time for yourself,
Mhm.
I think.
Of course, yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
need it. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's the old cliche, right? You have to take care of others. You have to take care of yourself first, right? Yeah.
The oxygen mask.
Oxygen mask.
In like the planes, the
Yeah.
is it put on your own mask first
First, and
before
then you
you
could take care of your kids, right?
and then
Yeah.
you can take care of your kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because you have to be balanced. You got to be emotionally there, right? So,
Yeah. And yeah, and how can I show up for my kid as a role model of um, you know, persistence and hard work and um self-confidence if I don't live those things. So,
yeah, exactly. And it was would you find sometimes it's therapeutic though when you're writing?
oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think, you know, and I am not unique in this at all, but I think most writers, if not all writers, are kind of like emotional magpies, right? So we're reading the news, we're eavesdropping on conversations in coffee shops, and we're
Mhm.
picking up these little stories. And it's a way for us to understand them and process them is to write it out, you know, or at least that's what I do. A lot of my confusion and frustration with things in the world, I work it out by writing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was out today. It's funny you mentioned that. I was out today and it's like there's no conversations to eavesdrop on because everybody's just on their phones.
Yeah, that's true.
They bring it back to what we're talking about, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you almost have to like voyeur on their texts, right? Like their texts, what they're
I
saying.
I never go that far, but
Yeah.
you know, you can still it's people will see, especially if you're like walking around like in a public area, there's always snippets or just
Yeah.
watching people's behavior or watching them speak on the phone. Like you can create whole characters.
So before we leave you, I want to ask you the one question on your blog interview. We ask everybody what film they've seen the most times in their life, and you said The Goonies,
Yeah.
which hasn't popped up yet because we ask everybody this question, has
Oh my
not popped
gosh.
up yet, but lots of Gen X 80s movies that, of course, like Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Back to the Future, but not The Goonies.
Oh man.
And the theater that we do our cinema, our film festival at in downtown Toronto has a poster of the Goonies at the theater. So
Oh
I
my
watch,
gosh.
I pass, I'm there all the time. So basically, I'm always looking at that poster. And every time I'm like, I should go watch that movie again because I saw it when I was a kid in the theater and I haven't
Man.
seen it since.
Oh man, I used to make my parents rent it every week from the grocery store where we would get our VHS rentals and they were like,
Yeah,
again? And I'm like, yeah. And I had it memorized. I had memorized the entire film.
yeah,
And actually, I'm going to put this out in the universe, but the actor I see as the antagonist, Mac,
yeah.
I named him Mac. I had already started writing the script and he had a different name, the character, but I named him Mac because Sean Astin, who's in The Goonies, his
Yep.
brother is Mackenzie Astin. And I was watching The Magicians, which is a sci-fi episodic based on Lev Grossman books. And Mackenzie Astin plays this character that I was like, holy crap, like this guy's amazing. And I pictured him acting in this thing. So Mackenzie Astin, if you hear this, I think you should be the lead antagonist in this film. Who
So
knows?
that's like a 1 degree separation from Goonies, I guess, right? Because yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And I did not intend that, but it totally is.
because it's got Josh Brolin as like as
Yeah.
yeah, and then the yeah, I was
Martha
he won an Oscar.
Plimpton. Martha Plimpton is in there.
Martha Plimpton, who's the he was in Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, and then he just won an Oscar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, he's wonderful, but I'm forgetting his name.
yeah,
And then even like Joey Pants, who
yeah.
he plays one of the Fratelli
Joe
brothers.
Pantoliano, it's one of his first roles. He talks about it. Yeah, yeah,
Amazing. It's an amazing film.
yeah. Because he obviously he's gone on to great things, right? Since then, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's this huge kind of contingent of like these child actors or young actors who go on the great things. And of course, it was a Spielberg, like he didn't direct it, but he executive produced it. So it's like, yeah, it's a kids adventure movie, right? So
Yeah.
which we liked back in the day because it was like it's a little bit more fantasy than Stand by Me, but it's still got that concept, right?
Hmm.
Where we go on an adventure and we figure out who we are as kids, right?
We become heroes.
Yeah. And we figure out, yeah, so it's like, so you kept on renting that over and over again.
Yeah. I was obsessed with it. Loved it.
Gotcha. Yeah, Corey Feldman, right? So
Hmm.
yeah. So Richard John or Donner directed it. He did the Superman movies, right? So
Oh wow, I didn't realize that. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So I want to go back and watch it. It's 40 years old. It's like 1985.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So you can figure out how old I am because I watched it when I was a kid. So
Same here. I mean,
basically,
like,
yeah,
I remember when it was in theaters, but I didn't see it in the theater.
yeah,
But I remember all my like friends going and loving it. And then so when I finally saw it, I was just like, oh, wow.
yeah. And it's the sloth character, right?
Yeah.
Is it the sloth? Yeah.
You guys. It's like
Yeah,
it's
I don't even know if
amazing.
they can do that now. That they have that
Yeah.
character now, right? So
I don't know. It's of its time.
yeah,
It is
totally
a
of
film
its
of its
time.
time.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done a remake of that film. Speaking of time, right? So
Man, I don't know if they should, but if they do, I'm open to seeing it. So
yeah, because I want to watch it and see if it's kid friendly too. See if it's got that kid friendliness to it. I guess, right? So
yeah.
all right. Well, they say that there's going to be a sequel according to the internet.
Oh no, really?
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
yeah. It's the Goonies 2, 40 years later.
They're gonna be all adults.
Yeah,
I'm there. I
yeah,
am so there.
yeah. Because yeah, I guess Chris Columbus was one of the writers, so he's famous for the
Yeah.
Home Alone, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh wow, that's amazing.
yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, I will definitely see it. I'll have to see it in the theater too. 100%.
Well, that's what the internet says. So I don't know if like basically, but it seems like yeah, it seems like it's in production right now. So we'll see what
Amazing.
happens. All right. Well, congratulations on the script. I think it's fantastic. It's really like it's tough. Like it's a tough tone and plot, but I think you're really onto something. And like I said, there's a lot of it's very twist. twist heavy, I guess, right? So
Yeah,
you don't want to give too much away.
don't want to give too much away.
Yeah. All right, congratulations. I wish you the ultimate best success, and
Thank you.
I hope it turns into a short film. I think it'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. And just thank you so much. It was a big honor, the news that you sent me, and it was a boost of confidence I really needed. So just thank you so much. And yeah, thank you.
Let's talk again when you win your next script.
Oh, I hope so.